Well, one Democrat is making a case for Congress to vote on whether to declare war on ISIS. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia is saying that he supports Obama's mission so far, but he says the president does not have the constitutional authority to declare war and that previous resolutions don't give him that power. Kaine is sponsoring a measure to formally authorize the mission.
We're not supposed to start a war without Congress. We shouldn't be putting our servicemen and women in harm's way if there's not a political consensus that the mission is worth it.
He is correct, Charlie Gasparino. I mean, do we live in a post-constitutional country? I mean, is the White House counsel stoned and asleep? Is every constitutional lawyer in D.C. stoned and asleep? Where have they gone?
I am not a constitutional lawyer. I refer to Judge Napolitano on such matters, but I think the president has every right to do what he's doing here. I don't see I mean, we are not declaring formal war on ISIS. We should, in my view, if we think it's as bad as it is. And then you go to Congress and you try to get then you do what I said before. You get the country around you, and President Obama gives a nice big speech and he pushes for this thing and he'll probably get it. But what he's doing now, I kind of don't want Tim Kaine mucking around on this. I mean, I don't see what he's adding to the debate.
He is required, Rachel, he is required to go to Congress. The War Powers Act says that any conflict lasting over 180 days, which we know this will, requires him to do that. And if Republicans are going to be consistent, they can't say and grouse that the president didn't go to get constitutional approval on Obamacare and other things and then sit quiet on this. That's hypocritical.
That's right. Look, I am the wife of a congressman. I prefer they not go back to Washington for personal reasons. But as an American, I am very glad if he does, and he should, because it is part of the Constitution, and we want the country united in this. And also, we're expecting all these Arab nations that have all these different interests, that also have terror ties, to somehow unite around the United States. They need to see the resolve of the American people. They need to see the resolve of Congress, and that we're all united with the president. It's very important. There's a reason why our founders did this.
And the precedent that it sets, Harris Faulkner, I mean, pretty dangerous if he doesn't go.
Well, and, you know, look, do you want to do this before or after the midterms? Because the conversations will be very different before and after the midterms.
That's true.
No one really wants to get on the record in Congress on either side, so I'm reading. And if there are bipartisan buy-ins on this, then they need to hold their own separate press conference.
Why is Kaine
Because I think Democrats want to vote against
it. After, then you have a lame duck session in Congress. And with a lame duck session in Congress, imagine what more you can get done.
For them to put that I vote next to their name.
No,
I don't see this as being political destruction.
I don't see it as controversial. Republicans back him for the most part. Democrats back him. The people are backing what he's doing. So what is this? Is this an ego trip? What is it? Why aren't you going to Congress? The people and the government support you. John Boehner is saying, come on, bring it. Bring a resolution. I'm waiting for it.
Why do you want every Democratic congressman to go out there and say we're starting another?
Why don't you want to show that the country is unified behind this mission? Democrats, Republicans, I think if you take a vote, you'll find that it is.
You'll get the votes?
Absolutely.
What if he thinks he can't? What if he knows a little something behind the scenes?
Or he doesn't want to anger his base.
Right. Yeah. But that's the point. This is all politics,
Always
right? Angering the base, putting a vote next to your name, having to defend a decision. How about the Constitution of the United States requires that the president go to Congress with this? And if he doesn't, the precedent that will be set, I think future parties, Republicans and Democrats, will not
and don't forget
every time we have to wipe out a terrorist organization, we got to get a congressional approval.
No, I'm saying this sounds a lot like war.
For a war, yes.
He's going to extend. Everyone is saying this conflict is going to
Reagan get congressional approval when he bombed
President Obama criticized Bush for not
and the UN.
No, that was for a bigger war. But when
bigger war, how do we know this isn't going to be a bigger war?
When President Reagan went out and bombed Muammar Gaddafi, did he get congressional approval?
The problem is that military folks are saying this is going to extend beyond a year.
We're not talking about Reagan, though, Charlie.
I know, but
what you're talking about with bombing a dictator, Muammar Gaddafi, is, from what I understand, is that was not expected to be a projected situation.
Yeah.
And what we're looking at now, not only is it projected to be 3 years, now we're hearing 6 to 10.
Well,
every week it gets longer and longer.
We were already in Iraq. Right?
We've been there 23 years, longer than Vietnam.
So how many more times you want to go to Congress saying we should be? We have people there. I mean,
you have an agreement now that allows us to take some action, but you're widening that now into Syria.
I have no problem with getting congressional approval on things.
That agreement is years old.
But for every single jot and tittle that this guy has to do to protect the country,
this isn't a jot and tittle.
I don't want.
This is not a jot and tittle.
No. There's a lot of ways I could answer that.
No!
But anyway.
I guess you think the Constitution's a dead letter.
Is it? It's a living Constitution. No, Moni, I knew that would get you crazy. No, I just don't think we should go for it.
Where's Judge Napolitano?
I'm not a living constitutional guy.
All right, everybody, check this out.
There are protests outside embassies all over the world.
Well, we have a naval base in Djibouti. If things get worse, we could have troops there in an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly, an hour and a half.
We're preparing to pull troops out of Afghanistan. Sending the cavalry to Yemen without sufficient provocation delivers entirely the wrong message. It looks like a shell game.
I agree.
Then I recommend pulling Ambassador Wellington out of...
Not an option. That's worse than sending forces. It's tantamount to an act of war.
I think that's an exaggeration.
That was a clip from the new CBS drama Madam Secretary. This show, starring Tia Leone, centers on a female Secretary of State, which some critics say bears a striking resemblance to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, even going so far as to call the show nothing short of Hillary propaganda. But others say that aside from the fashion, there is no comparison between Clinton and the show's main character. So what do you guys think? Is this Hillary propaganda?
I didn't get far enough to get into that. It's boring.
Very boring.
So I'm thinking if I'm Hillary Clinton, I don't want anybody comparing that to my campaign. Seriously.
But I think the bigger point is the left has been very smart about using popular culture. And conservatives would be smart to take a page out of that. I think if they took half the money they spent on super PACs and spent it on buying a television studio or a movie studio, that we would be further along. We have ignored the culture. What do you think, Andrea?
Rachel, I think you hit the nail on the head. The culture is really the war, right? The fight for the culture. There aren't enough conservatives making movies. When they do, they're box office hits. I mean, you look at Fireproof, that film with Kirk Cameron, movies about religion. They do very, very well because people are hungry for that. But you're right. They spend so much money fighting these little tax battles, and the larger war is for the culture. But this is definitely propaganda for Hillary Clinton.
There aren't that many conservatives that run major television networks. Our ultimate boss, Rupert Murdoch, some people would say is right of center. I don't see him to be a far-right conservative. But the rest of them, it's pretty liberal out there. Time Warner, you name it. Go down the line. Who produces the content? Showtime, you name part of CBS and Viacom, very liberal people run those places. So this, and I don't think you can just spend billions to copy that. That takes a lot of other efforts. I mean, it's...
Well, I mean, start somewhere, though.
You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
And as Andrea said, there's success.
And they keep winning elections as a result of this. Now, I don't know how this is going to portray her, but a lot of people, unfortunately, are more inclined to watch a show from that, and if they make an association to Hillary Clinton, that's positive, great, than to actually watch the Benghazi hearings and see what actually happened with respect to her. So I think you got to start somewhere, and I think it is hard.
I'm going to interject, if you will let me, because breaking news changes everything. As promised, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, at the United Nations General Assembly, speaking now.